Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
All right, it's hard to know what to do with this. Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. Sam Bushman, Eldon Stahl, John Birch Society field coordinator with me. The broadcast is for May 15th, 2025, promoting God, family, country, protecting life, liberty, and property. An analysis of the congressional record. All I can tell you is that it's a disaster. What has Trump done? What has Trump signed? And Congress needs to get the blame. I'm not attacking President Trump. Okay? You got to look at this and you go, what? I mean, the low was set by George W. Bush in 1993. A lot of them, Ronald Reagan had one that was 9 bills passed in the first 100 days. Even Richard Nixon had 9. He's at 5. It goes on all the way back. Eisenhower had 10. Okay? It's a disaster. He hasn't signed many bills into law because, hey, they haven't sent him anything. So what do you expect him to do? Right? And I look at this and I go, what are the 5 bills? Okay, you got the Lincoln-Riley Act, which is good. I guess there was a stopgap bill to keep the government funded for 6 months, so they spent us into oblivion for 6 more months. One was a strict immigration detention measure. That's the Lincoln-Riley Act. But they basically accomplished nothing. I don't even know how to respond to this. They've done nothing. And we're paying these people $175,000 a year each in the House and more in the Senate. And they have all kinds of benefits. They come in poor, leave rich, and they've literally done nothing. 5 bills in 5 months is an absolute disgrace. You would think that they would have passed a ton of little bills, and they're like, hey, man, we passed 100 bills in 100 days, baby, or whatever. I don't even know how to respond to this. But at some point, you can't even get a hold of your congressman or senator, can you, Eldon?
Well, mine are pretty responsive, but I know a lot of places that say, yeah, they're not very responsive at all. But I'm going to offer maybe an alternative view on this. And I don't know if it's how would you think of this, Sam, but Congress, when they have passed legislation, historically, it seems like we look at it and say, boy, that was just a disaster of legislation. So, for them to
so maybe it's good. Maybe it's good that they're paralyzed. I get that, but not when they're going to run on this idea that they're going to change the whole world and save us from ourselves and everything else, right?
Right, but I mean, if somebody is just producing garbage, and then all of a sudden they're producing less, you might look at it and say, well, at least they're producing less garbage. I know it's kind of a strange way to look at it, but you got to start somewhere. And sometimes it's just cutting your losses rather than increasing your gains. I would like to have some real good wins from Congress
normally, but in this case where they've literally promised more than the Republican Revolution of the 90s. They promised serious action. Right. They promised accountability and transparency like nobody's business. I mean, they're literally calling it, what do they call that thing? Not a renaissance. They're calling it a...
like a renewal?
Yeah, but there's a word they're using. It's like the golden age.
Golden age. Oh.
The golden age. And we're going to disassemble most of government. We're going to decrease government back to its proper role. We're going to get back to the Constitution. We're going to decrease spending. And the golden age has nothing. They have done nothing. They voted 6 months to just keep spending the same. And then they wasted 6 months almost. And now they're ready to go ahead and vote it again, kick the can down the road again. At some point, people need to make them pay at the polls, people. I'm telling you right now, this is out of control. Anyway, I don't mean to go on about it forever, but I just think, and the problem is you got a lot of people just, saying, hey, the Republicans are doing great. The Democrats are in disarray, but the Republicans, man, they're rocking. No, they're not. Trump's rocking. I agree. There's some things he's doing that I don't agree with, but for the most part, I think he's doing a great job in many, many, many ways. Okay? I mean, one of the biggest bills I think they should sign, hey, let's just defund Planned Parenthood. It could simply say this: the government has no business funding a private organization like Planned Parenthood. Therefore, all funding ceases immediately. Good. Sign it, pass it, did. They could get that done in an hour.
Yeah, that could be done very quickly. It could be a simple amendment to appropriations bill, and but it seems like there's people that in Congress they like Planned Parenthood. They like sending your tax dollars to to stack up unborn children like cordwood or something. However you want to say it.
Anyway, I just look at this thing and don't understand it. I really don't. And I don't know how we're going to do something else about it. I mean, I don't know what we can do about this thing. The Republicans are going to lose their opportunity. And what's going to happen? What's going to happen at the end of this? Are they going to pass the raise the debt ceiling plan? They want to raise it by like $4 trillion.
Yeah, well, that's not so good. We don't need to be. Really, we need to get back to following the Constitution. We need to, understand it and demand that our representation reflect that in Congress, and that's district by district and town by town. We've got to build that understanding, and we've got plenty of opportunity to do that, to help people understand that. I always recommend The Constitution as a Solution. It's a great video series. You can share that with anybody, free online. You can get the DVDs, whatever, and help people understand how they can implement some key principles.
All right, there you have it. Now the headline says this: Trump did what no other president before him has done since 2000. What am I talking about? It was the first time Americans and Syria sat down together in a quarter of a century. Newser.com. Kate Siemens with the story. Trump held a, quote, closed-door meeting in, what's this place called? Riyadh, I think is how you say it. Anyway, on Wednesday with Syria's interim president, marking the first encounter in a quarter of a century. I love sitting down with people and avoiding wars. This is great news. Why don't we say, because we're sitting down and diplomatically meeting with leaders, we're going to chop the military-industrial complex from $1 trillion down to $500 billion. We're going to get rid of $500 billion in spending. But they're increasing the budget for the military-industrial complex while Trump's trying to peacefully get us out of wars and diplomatically sit down and have relationships. It's just astounding, but good for Trump.
It's amazing that we didn't need the United Nations to bring that about, did we? We just, have people quietly meeting with other representatives of other nations and working out our differences or discussing concerns and all of that. You don't need to have people airing their grievances before all the rest of the world and somehow think that that's going to create goodwill internationally. So it's amazing.
Yeah. I just don't even know how to focus on this, really. I don't really know where to look. I just know this is good news. I know that sitting down with people is always a good idea. If you can, instead of just believing the boogeyman idea, even though some of these people are fairly wicked people, if you could sit down with them and have a peaceful, discussion diplomatically, provide appropriate leadership and everything else, and you can avoid wars and avoid the need for the military-industrial complex and find solutions, that to me is really where it's at, Eldon.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Where do we go from here? Do you think we can avoid the wars? Or do you think he's going to be a wartime president?
I think he's going to try to avoid the wars.
Well, I sure hope we can avoid the wars. One of the biggest things Congress needs to do is take back their war authority from the president and insist that, hey, they stay in the middle of this discussion. But they're derelict in all their duties. They're sleeping on the job. They're taking so much money from the American people, and their output for solutions is virtually nothing. Hang tight.
Do you know what is great about America? Ask an Immigrant. Ask an Immigrant is a new podcast dedicated to helping Americans, especially our youth, value, appreciate, and be grateful for the freedoms we have here in America. Join host Lydia Wallace-Nuttall as she interviews immigrants from around the world to discover their inspiring personal stories about why they came to America. To learn more about why America is the most prosperous, greatest country in the world, download the Loving Liberty app or go to lovingliberty.net.
In the medical field, IT security is crucial. Our highly skilled consultants are HIPAA certified and have 20-plus years of experience servicing medical clinics, billing, and supply companies. We offer comprehensive endpoint protection, guarding your computers and servers against all stages of threats. And with our 24/7 monitoring services, you'll never worry about extensive downtime again. Ready to level up your IT support? Call 801-706-6980 today and discover how great IT services can be with managed IT services.
The Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit legal foundation committed to protecting our unalienable right to publicly acknowledge God. The Foundation for Moral Law exists to restore the knowledge of God in law and government and to acknowledge and defend the truth that man is endowed with rights not by our fellow man, but by God. The Foundation maintains a twofold focus. First, litigation within state and federal courts. Second, education, conducting seminars to teach the necessity and importance of acknowledging God in law and government. How can you help? Please make a tax-deductible contribution, allowing Foundation attorneys to continue the fight. You may also purchase various Foundation products as well at morallaw.org. Located in Montgomery, Alabama, the Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit, tax-exempt 501c3 founded by Judge Roy Moore. Please partner with us to achieve this important mission. morallaw.org.
All right, back with you live, Eldon Stahl, Sam Bushman. Anyway, I commend Trump for having these meetings. An announcement that the United States would begin lifting sanctions on Syria, restrictions that they say have been in place for decades, based on the Assad regime or whatever else. And I'm just delighted to see this because hopefully it will avoid war around the world. And I really think we're going to get a whole lot more with a carrot than a stick, a whole lot more with honey, rather than, vinegar, whatever you want to call it. I really believe in this idea, and I commend Trump. I mean, no one's done this in literally a quarter of a century, and it takes real leadership. And so I don't know what the outcome of all this is going to be, but I know this. It's a great effort, and I hope it bears fruit, Eldon.
Yeah, I hope so too. It seems going in the right direction at least.
Do you think you'll come up with something good? Do you think we can, bring home a lot of our troops? I mean, we're in over 130 nations militarily speaking now. We're spending $1 trillion. They're trying to increase the budget for the military-industrial complex. I think we could pull out, bring a lot of people home, simplify, not have a standing army, and put ourselves in a pretty good position. We could probably chop that trillion down to maybe even, a couple $100 billion. And, that's an opportunity if we'd take it.
Yeah, and what Trump really should do is he should openly advocate for getting out of the UN, not just let's entertain getting out of parts of it. It's kind of like cutting off the head of a hydra or something. We got to go to the root of the problem there. And we have some of these troops all over the country because we're part of the UN and NATO and these different international organizations. If we wouldn't, then Well, basically, the responsibility for going to war would be in the hands of Congress, where it should be, where it is constitutionally. But back in 1945, Congress abdicated illegitimately that responsibility and gave it to the president. And that should not be the case. Of course, presidents are always anxious to go to war. That's just how it is.
Except for George Washington, he wasn't anxious to go to war.
True. He was not wanting to do that. But when the temptation is there, when you see, he was part of the Constitutional Convention, and he was part of that group that insisted that the decision on whether to go to war or not would be in the hands of the legislative body, not the executive. And that was the thing that James Madison said was the greatest genius within the Constitution, was just that provision, that decision should be made by the representatives of the people and the state governments rather than the executive. That was a revolutionary idea, really, at the time.
There's no question. And the revolutionary idea was to bring as many people to the discussion as possible, to debate it and decide if we should literally, do this or not, create a plan with if we're going to go in. If we decide to go in, here's the objectives, here's the money we're going to spend, here's what it's going to take, and we're going to get in and get out, we're going to get it done. And, where all those kind of things were the opportunity. And what Congress has done is they've just simply let the president do whatever he wants to. They're not controlling the purse strings. Then if we're in a war we shouldn't be in, we say, well, golly, we can't pull our guys out now. And so we're in this perpetual dishonest understanding. Yep. We're using war powers right now to deal with some of these illegal immigrants even. And so we've allowed wartime powers or wartime emergency ideas to stay in place. And that's where we've got to stop that. We've got to push back and say no. And Congress needs to take their responsibility seriously. And there's things short of war in the Constitution. If they want to do mark and reprisal or, some of those other things, there's other ways that could be authorized. But what's being done now just sidelines Congress from their fiduciary responsibilities completely. And that's why I'm so mad at Congress right now. I just can't even believe it.
Well, in a way, if we're mad at Congress, we kind of have to look at ourselves in the mirror. Although the fact of the matter is that, of course, we could only directly affect those that represent us in Congress. So our 2 U.S. senators and our 1 U.S. House representative. But there's a lot more than people realize that can be affected by just changing who's in Congress, and that's so consequential. There are some in Congress that are very principled, good folks that are pushing, for example, to end the Fed, to get us out of the United Nations, to completely end the Department of Education, all those things.
Has your rep signed on to end the Fed? Are they a co-sponsor?
I'll have to look. Actually, I should. She probably is, but I don't know for sure.
I can't even find out if my congressman's a co-sponsor or not.
Oh, okay. Let me see if I could do a little digging. I can get.
Let's see if we can get some answers on that, because I'm convinced that a lot of the people that should be standing for this simply aren't, and that's part of the problem, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Anyway, Eldon will look that up on the next break here or whatever and see if we can't get some answers on that. Alex Newman over at the New American, our dear friend, is doing a phenomenal job and really reporting some great stuff. Headline says, doctors still being, quote, muzzled. Warns doc persecuted for COVID treatments. Alex Newman, thenewamerican.com. Do you have this article in front of you, Eldon? This one's really good.
Let me see if I can pull it up.
I look at this and I think, man,
I was just looking up
what do we
one
do
on the
with
Fed,
this?
actually.
I mean, literally 5 years later after COVID, they're still harassing people and you can't tell the truth or deal with COVID. I don't even know how to respond to that kind of stuff, right?
Well, it's kind of putting into place a more permanent tyranny. That was part of the intent of all this COVID stuff was just getting us used to, a tyranny of sorts, arbitrary use of power without limit, as Madison defined it, and without accountability. And that's what we're seeing. And it completely gets rid of or ignores, the First Amendment, for example, the ability to speak your mind, all of that. But yeah, it's. I think there's some changes.
It says this: doctors in Washington State and beyond are still being muzzled on COVID and on other issues by government agencies, warned Dr. Michael Turner, a leading independent medical professional who has been persecuted for prescribing ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine during COVID. Speaking to the New American Magazine, senior editor Alex Newman, relating to conversations that matter, he says, hey, we got to protect medical freedom going forward. Turner, a graduate of Harvard and Stanford, had advice for patients and other providers to watch all episodes, conversations that matter, etc., but then to basically get involved and say, hey, we just can't have this happening, right? We've got to stand together and stop it. And these people are still being persecuted and prosecuted for standing up. Conversations that matter certainly relates to COVID, even now after COVID's over, because people have to understand doctors are still trying to do the right thing, help people with overcoming long-haul symptoms and everything else. And the problem is they're just not able to be doctors, to be physicians. They're forced to shut up and everything. And Rand Paul says he's still going to go after Fauci. He had a big old conversation with Glenn Beck about it just recently in the last couple of days, and he says we're going to go after him. I don't have any confidence that Rand Paul can get anything done, though. Do you?
Well, it seems like it would be difficult. How he would pull that off, I don't know. But certainly a person can try, and even in the process, he may get. Remember when Ron Paul was in the U.S. House several different times, right? He came in, he came out, came in. And often he would do these, what do they call it, special orders or something? Basically, it's like after hours, and you give them time to talk on the House floor. It's just the clerks there and the reader and all that. And he would talk, and I remember he'd be on C-SPAN.
People snoring and sleeping and stuff.
Right, there's like nobody in this place, and he's talking, but he wanted to get, something in the congressional record. And people would see this, at least on C-SPAN, and they would be like, who is this guy? And he's talking about stuff that's really important. Why is nobody listening to him? But people were listening. And over time, people started to appreciate the messages that he was giving. And sometimes that can happen in these committee hearings, too, or what have you, these investigations, that, it still alerts people, even though, the person that needs to be held accountable isn't necessarily held accountable.
Amen to that. When we get back, I want to talk about the incredible leadership by the great state of Utah, followed by the great state of Florida. Headline from Alex Newman over at thenewamerican.com. States move towards sound money with transactional gold. We'll talk about it with Eldon Stahl in seconds. You're listening to the one and only Liberty Roundtable live talk show. Hey, did you know they're going to be having some incredible events coming up here? I'll tell you about those when we get back as well. Shane Krauser launches Freedom's Best Chance tour across Utah. It's $10 to attend. Friday night, that's May 16th, 6:30 p.m. at Utah Valley University.
Your daily Liberty News Wire. You're listening to Liberty News Radio.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Greg Clugston in Washington. President Trump delivered a pep talk to American troops at a base in Qatar.
As president, my priority is to end conflicts, not start them, but I will never hesitate to wield American power if it's necessary to defend the United States of America or our partners.
As he travels through the Middle East, the president said he was pleased with 2 major Boeing aircraft orders. A day after a Saudi company ordered at least 20 jets, Qatar placed the biggest order for 787s and wide-body jets in Boeing's history.
I think it's the largest order ever for aircraft, so I salute the people from Boeing, Kelly, and everybody, and General Electric. The engines are General Electric Super Prime, and I really think it's great.
Meanwhile, in other parts of the Mideast, violence flared in the West Bank. Israeli airstrikes killed more than 50 people in southern Gaza. An American-backed humanitarian group expects to begin aid operations in Gaza before the end of the month.
The group, which calls itself the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, says that it got what it describes as key agreements from Israeli officials on delivery. The announcement identified several U.S. military veterans, former humanitarian coordinators, and security contractors who say that they will lead the delivery effort. Many in the aid community believe it's meant to supplant the distribution system, now run by the UN and other international aid agencies. Israel has blocked food, fuel, medicine, and all other supplies from entering Gaza for weeks in a worsening humanitarian crisis.
That's Lisa Dwyer reporting. Walmart says higher tariffs are forcing it to raise prices. The big retailer says the price hikes will start later this month. More at townhall.com.
Charlie Kirk here. I've been thinking, why does it feel like losing weight is harder than ever before? Mixed messages, fad diets, and quick fix solutions. Many people are left stuck and exhausted trying to fight a battle they can't seem to win. If you feel this way, you're not alone. I used to feel that way too. But let me tell you, it's not your fault. Your body is working against you, and delaying action only makes it harder. I took a step 2 years ago and called PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition and lost 40 pounds. I feel great and have kept it off. If you are ready to make a change for life, call 855-696-2020. That is 855-696-2020 to schedule your weight loss consultation. The first 11 callers who mention healthy will get 2 free weeks added to their weight loss package. Call 855-696-2020 and mention the word healthy. Visit them at myphdweightloss.com. That is myphdweightloss.com. It works, everybody. Check it out at myphdweightloss.com.
Recent studies show that parents who smoke in the home are more likely to have children who smoke.
Yes, in fact, my brother, he's 22 now. He told me and my father that's why he started smoking. One of the reasons why he started smoking is because my dad was around, and they saw my dad smoking. My dad said, "Okay, I don't want you to smoke. I don't want you to watch what I'm doing."
Recent studies also show that in homes where parents don't smoke, their children usually don't smoke either.
I am the way I am because my grandparents taught me what not to do. They gave me morals. They gave me belief. They gave me something to believe in. They just taught me well. I love them. I do.
Smoking. If you think you're old enough to start, you're smart enough to stop. A public service message from this station and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Step into the boots of the American West with Range Magazine, where grit meets grace. This is a front row seat to the stories, struggles, and triumphs of ranchers, farmers, and stewards of the land. From jaw-dropping photography to no-nonsense reporting, Range brings you the untold tales of life on the range. Whether you're a city dweller with a cowboy's heart or living life where the pavement ends, Range speaks to the soul of the West. Subscribe today at rangemagazine.com.
Are you ready to stand up for your community and support your local sheriff? Join the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association and become a vital member of the Sheriff's Citizens Posse. At cspoa.org, we empower citizens like you through weekly webinars, arming you with the knowledge to back your constitutional county sheriff. Together, we can uphold our Constitution and ensure liberty and justice for all. Your community needs you now more than ever.
Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
All right, back to live, ladies and gentlemen. Shane Krauser launches what he calls Freedom's Best Chance tour across Utah. It's $10 to attend. He's going to have 3 dates, 3 events. The first one is on Friday. That's tomorrow, May 16th. All these events will be at 6:30 p.m. $10 to attend. The first one, Friday, May 16th, will be at Utah Valley University. The second one, Monday, May 19th, will be at Kimber Academy. And Wednesday, May 21st, will be 6:30 p.m. will be at the Liberty Hills Academy. And they're also going to have a lot of private meetings with people as well. And so get a hold of, just look for Shane Crowther, and you can go ahead and find out what he's doing and get involved in it or whatever else. Pretty cool stuff. I love it when people come and speak and bring their knowledge to the table. He's going to provide strategies of how to deal with the economics of this too. You know what? How do you promote liberty, but yet not starve doing it? And he's got a way that people can be prosperous along the way, Eldon, which I think is huge. We haven't seen people come and speak on that topic, but he's coming to Utah, so it's great news.
Yeah, that sounds like some really good events to be part of. Hopefully, folks that in the area, especially, they can be part of it and learn. We all gotta. There's so much to. I don't know. Just even to network with like-minded people is very valuable. But I do have the list of people that are sponsoring this bill to get us out, get rid of the Fed in the House. So you might like that.
All right, there you go. Failing Republicans have sent Trump just 5 bills to sign into law in literally 5 months. It is a disgrace, people. All right, states move towards sound money. This is a great article written by Alex Newman that I think we should talk about too, because if you really want solutions, one of them is to have Congress pass simple bills like I mentioned and have them decrease spending, which is what they should be doing. They should be following Doge around. Whenever Doge finds a scandal, they should put a piece of legislation in, boom, that deals with it to codify it, and that way the courts couldn't shut down Trump every day. Nevertheless, this to me is critical, because if we could chain them down with the Constitution and honest money, that would stop 90% of our complaints dead in its tracks. Eldon?
That would be a big one. Take away the ability for them to inflate our currency as a way to increase spending, a secret tax, a hidden tax, when they can't get a tax approved by the people in the upfront way. That would be a big thing. But states are moving forward with that. Looks like Arkansas has signed into law a law creating a transactional gold system in Arkansas. Governor Huckabee Sanders signed that. Florida is moving ahead with this transactional bill. I don't know that it's passed quite yet, but it is in the process. And then Texas, that bill is moving, House Bill 1056, moving through the process, and decent chance that it could pass. And Utah actually passed this transactional gold bill. The shameful thing that happened was, even though it passed almost unanimously, it was overwhelming support in both chambers. Governor Cox vetoed that bill. But worse than that, if you could imagine, is the leadership in the legislature decided, you know what, we're not going to consider whether or not to override any of the governor's vetoes this session. We're just going to let those things fly and not even discuss whether we're going to overturn that. To me, that should be a right of the people to expect that their representatives always consider an override of a veto. But that's what happened in Utah.
It should be automatic.
Should be automatic. There should be a day set aside. Like when I lived in South Dakota, That's how the legislative session is. They take 2 weeks off, they come back for a day, and they consider veto overrides. And that's it. That's all they do that legislative day. It's specifically set aside for that. Not just saying, I don't think we'll even try. Now, basically, that makes the governor a king if the governor knows that they can veto anything and it's dead.
Wow, man, I love it. I want to see constitutional currency become the order of the day. Do you think other states are going to follow Utah and Florida? Because I think if we could get a significant number of states, then I think we could really push back and make this change. But at some point, Congress is going to have to come to the table, aren't they?
Yeah, eventually. Right. But this is, this has been happening since, I think, 2011. I think Utah was the first one, actually, kind of a pioneer in this. And there's various bills, kind of various aspects of restoring sound money on the state level. But yeah, more and more each year, there's states that are introducing these bills, passing them, these types of bills that make it more and more, I guess, viable for people to transact in gold and silver coin, or maybe electronic equivalent, or like the gold backs, or the various options that way. So we don't have to be held hostage to these Federal Reserve notes.
Well, it's something that they could have done first day if they really had the guts, right?
Yeah, but obviously, they're just like any legislation. There needs to, some lobbying, some education, some support among the people, and then things move through. But yeah, they could have done it any time, but they need the push from us.
All right. Anyway, I just find that interesting. It's a great story by Alex Newman. There's efforts to audit and end the Fed. I want to see the Fed audited. Did you get any information on who's going to be auditing that thing? Or end the Fed?
So, the bill in the U.S. House to end the Fed, you've got co-sponsors. Well, the prime sponsor is Thomas Massey, of course, right? And then you've got Andy Biggs from Arizona, Lauren Boebert from Colorado. These kind of the honor roll here. Eric Burlinson from Missouri, Kat Kamek from Florida, Michael Cloud from Texas, Elijah Crane from Arizona, Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia, Harriet Hagman from Wyoming, Scott Perry from Pennsylvania, and Chip Roy from Texas.
And that's it?
So that's the House. Yeah, 10 co-sponsors right now.
Where's our buddy Mike Kennedy? And out of 435, you got 10 people sponsoring it? That's it?
I don't know. I'll have to look up.
It's not going to see the light of day like that, people. Just isn't.
Yeah, it needs to have more co-sponsors. What you need to do is call your local office, preferably of your U.S. House member for that one. It's H.R. 1846 is what the thing is. It's Federal Reserve Board Abolition Act. So pretty straightforward in its naming. H.R. 1846. Ask them to sign on as co-sponsor to support that.
Yeah. There you have it. Anyway, very interesting. I pray for success here, but I don't really have a lot of hope. And I know it sounds negative. It's like, Sam, you should be positive. How do you be positive when this stuff is happening here? It's like they're absolutely squandering the best opportunity we've had in our entire lives. And they're blatantly, intentionally shutting it down. They feign support for Trump. They wave the flag. But at the end of the day, they're doing everything they can to see President Trump fail. CNN host Wolf Blitzer, for example, blatantly suggested to Joaquin Jeffries that, hey, voters will not be able to trust Democrats in the future due to the fact that they dishonestly covered up for Joe. Why should we trust them when it's evident, it's clear that your party went to extreme lengths to keep Biden's condition hidden from the public, Blitzer asked. Now, I look at that and I go, okay, I agree, 100%. I've never agreed with Wolf Blitzer on anything, but I agree with this. But here's the deal. If the Republicans promised to reduce spending, they put Doge in place, they did all these things, President Trump's provided the leadership, and then they do nothing, and they spend us into oblivion, and can't we ask the same question of the Republicans? Just wondering.
Yeah.
When we get back, let's have Eldon respond to that. Hang tight. You're listening to Liberty Roundtable Live, ladies and gentlemen.
Cybercrime is exploding. Take Sarah from Sweet Delights, whose world crumbled after having to close with not being able to bounce back. Small businesses are prime targets, but the right strategies can keep yours safe. Jay Hill, CEO of Network Providers, has co-authored The Cyber Playbook Simplifies Cybersecurity for Business Owners with Strategies to avoid costly breaches and fines. Build a strong cyber attack response. Secure your business with key protections. Cyber threats aren't slowing down, but you can stay ahead. Protect your business. Ensure its security for tomorrow. Get the Cyber Playbook today at networkprovidersinc.com/cyber-playbook or call 385-446-5500 now.
This is a battle between truth and deceit. A battle between forces that would enslave this country in darkness and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in fact.
TheEpochTimes.com.
Looking for an IT partner that truly understands your needs? Managed IT Services is the answer. We meet with you regularly to discuss your goals and form a tailored technology plan. Our customers have called us a trusted advisor who delivers. When it comes to IT, we do it all. Firewalls, cloud storage, server migration, and more. Say goodbye to long-term contracts and hello to a team that earns your business month after month. Call 801-706-6980 now and let Managed IT Services transform your IT experience.
All right, so Wolf Blitzer literally asking, hey, how can we trust Democrats when they covered up the Joe Biden scandal? But so did Republicans. The Speaker of the House tells you that a year before, he knew that Joe Biden was melting down, and he still let him run for president, still said nothing. And now they're slow-walking everything Trump's trying to do. So Liberty Roundtable Live host Sam Bushman blatantly claims that voters will not be able to trust Republicans if they continue to slow walk everything to do with Donald Trump's efforts. We can't trust them, Eldon.
Well, yeah, I mean, if they promise to help with Trump's agenda, then they don't seem to be doing a very good job. Of course, the funny thing, it should be asked to CNN, how can we trust CNN? It's not like CNN wasn't part of the cover-up on Joe Biden's medical health condition. But they're trying to, now we can't trust the well, okay, but, it's not like they weren't part of that. But, there's a real, a lot of times people go into office and they say one thing and they do another once they get in there. And so it's very popular to try to ride on Trump's coattails at this point. In a way, you might say, well, that's a positive thing if you like Trump. But at the same time, the same thing still happens. Once they get in, they still have to be held accountable.
That's the problem. That's really the bottom line problem here. Is I don't know what we're going to do about it, but they're literally betraying Trump and his agenda. Why should we trust Republicans if they continue to slow walk the MAGA agenda? Okay, when it's clear somebody in their party literally went to great lengths to undermine President Trump. I mean, that's really what's happening, right? So, I mean, I appreciate that they want you to believe the Democratic Party's melting down and they don't have a place to go and they don't have a home and all that. But I don't see that the Republicans are a whole lot better off. They got the majority because of the Donald. That's right. But the fact is they're not doing anything to earn it, anything to keep it. They're not transparent. They're not accountable. I mean, out of the 5 bills they've passed, I don't even know what value any of them are. I mean, increasing the funding for 6 months, just kicking the can down the road, that's one of the 5. That's a huge betrayal. Anyway, yeah. I don't even know where to look anymore, folks. I mean, it's getting to the point where you have to start to head for the hills and dig in. You know, they're saying, I can't tell you what happened between George Clooney and President Joe Biden. In other words, hey, President Biden had a big old fundraiser. He didn't even know who Clooney was. And Clooney freaked and went, what do you mean you don't know who I am? And now there's this big old scandal, and they talked about, hey, we even need to possibly for the next term put Joe in a wheelchair and stuff. And then you've got these liberal hosts writing this book about it, saying that, oh, they're blowing the whistle on this. Well, they were certainly silent when it mattered. Now they're blowing the whistle because it's too late, right? But again, it's all just a massive, massive betrayal as far as I can tell. All of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Seems to be. And so, one thing we can do is change the conversation. You can do this for free. Okay. Go to thefreedomindex.org. Get your congressmen's or your state legislators' scorecards. Print them off, share them electronically, whatever you want to do. And that changes the conversation right there. How did they vote on the issues that matter, that are directly affecting your liberties? Key votes. And share those with your neighbors and friends. And that changes really how it's not just, oh, well, he shook my hand or he has a nice yard sign or something. It's, now I see where he stands. How do his actions match up with his rhetoric? Those are important questions, and you want to change the conversation that way so people can. Most people don't know who their congressmen are, frankly.
Well, and even if you know who they are, you can't get a hold of them. So, you're talking with their staff, of course. You can work through their schedule and set up a time to meet with them and all that. And that's a good thing to do. It never works out for me. I've literally gone to Washington, D.C. to try to meet with them. And what they do is they say, I'll meet with you, Sam. So I've tried to meet with Mike Lee. And I met with him, and he's like, hey, come on Wednesday. I can't remember the day it was. I think it was like Wednesday. He's like, hey, we're having Utah Jello Day. And he came in and gave me a cup of Jello and took his picture with me, and I didn't even get to talk to him.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, so you just have some Jello and call it good. Jello in a photo. Don't you feel good? You talk to your senator there, Eldon. See, and then when I call in the switchboard right now, I just get voicemail in the middle of the day. It's probably because they're sleeping or something. I don't know. But I look at this and I just go, we can't even work with them anymore that I can see.
I don't know. I've had pretty good luck with mine. I mean, I call them up and they actually have people call me back and say, hey, yeah, here's what we think on this. So I guess every office is a little bit different. But, I don't know about Lee's office. I'm not in Utah, so.
I want Eldon to run for office. Are you going to run anytime soon?
Well, people have asked me, I guess. Part of it is, since I'm on staff with the John Birch Society, it's kind of they won't allow me to serve in a public office. But
these other people are in bed with George Soros. Hold on, these other people are in bed with George Soros, but it doesn't stop them.
True. Yep. It's just kind of long-standing policy but we do encourage our members to be politically active, whether that's supporting a candidate of their choice or party or running for office, all of that. That could be a productive thing. But it's not for everybody, right? And not everybody's going to be great at running for office, for example. That's a unique skill set there.
Yeah.
But they can all make a difference. Sure.
I'm just making the point that I want somebody like Eldon to run because whether that's his strong suit or not, The fact is he's honest. And so if he's honest, he's got more than 99% of them up there already, just coming out of the gate. He's an honest man. You can count on what he says. He'll do his very best to deliver on that. What more do you want? But I don't think we can trust the Democratic Party, like Wolf Blitzer says, because, hey, they covered it up, everything. I don't think we can trust the Republican Party. They're literally slow-walking the MAGA agenda, and they're literally betraying the President of the United States, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, not everybody is honest. I do appreciate your compliments. It's very nice. But yeah, we need to help people be honest. Help people be their conscience. That's kind of our role as citizens, constituents. And they need to hear from us, or they're going to hear from somebody else.
They sure will. And sadly, they're hearing from those with money. And one of the things I think Congress should really do, but they won't, because they're in charge of the hen house, so to speak. I wish they'd basically put some serious legislation in place to not have lobbyists and not have, compromising. It's an ethics problem. I mean, if you're a mortgage broker or a real estate agent or some of these kind of people in insurance, you're not allowed to even pay for somebody's lunch because they say, well, you might have a conflict of interest there. Yet these congressmen and senators can just do this all day long, and at the end of it, they all come out rich. But, of course, Trump will complain about it, want to do something about it, say that he's going to do something about it, and then he'll be betrayed by his own party so he can't get anything done.
Yeah, part of the problem, though, is since Congress has gotten, we've allowed Congress to get involved in things that it shouldn't be involved in, playing Santa Claus for everybody, then, of course, that incentivizes all these different interest groups to come and say, well, I'm going to try to influence the process to get a piece of the pie. So it once again comes back to us in, understanding and demanding that the Constitution be adhered to.
Yeah, the problem is this. The swamp continually has its hand out. That's a quote from Ron Paul in an email that I just got sent. The problem is, folks, that there's not enough of us to really push this agenda. Like I say, if I had my way, I'd let all 435 of them go. And I'd send a message that's never been sent in the history of our republic to that degree, a mandate. You people didn't carry out what you promised you would, and you're all gone. I apologize, Thomas Massey, and a couple of people are casualties. I just can't help it. 435 gone in one election cycle. Just imagine what a defeat that would be and what that would do if we got the right people in and gave President Trump, the rest of the time in office to actually accomplish some things. Shut down Planned Parenthood and quit funding that. Shut down government education. Audit the Fed. I mean, when are they going into Fort Knox, man? I'm waiting.
Right.
I kind of think I need to email an open letter to President Trump and say, since you don't have time to go to Fort Knox, send me.
Yep. We have the power to get rid of all 435 in the House in the election. And
you can get rid of a third of the senators, too, all at once. Boom.
Right. Yeah, we got rid of Liz Cheney a couple of years ago in a resounding fashion. And, certainly shows that it can be done. You want somebody new to represent you.
To add insult to injury and to ratchet up my frustration even further, I just got an email from guess who? Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
Oh.
Yeah. He says, Patriot, we're down to the wire. I've been holding this survey open as long as I can. Please take my survey and donate some money. I'm telling you right now, fire the clown, kick him out of office, and find any way to prosecute him to the fullest extent of the law. Out of control. It's got to stop. We need the American people to stand up in the culture war. Stand up for God Almighty and stand up for the proper role of limited constitutional government. The sooner, the better. Eldon Stahl, JBS.org. Thank you so much, sir.
Oh, thank you, Sam.
God save our republic.